Small bit of housekeeping before we get to the important stuff. Here's the housekeeping. There are so many misconceptions about moi. Just because I'm different from anyone you've ever met doesn't mean that you should have all these odd misconceptions. The primary one, which a friend just shared with me, which is a very, very, very common one, is that I am a man of awesome means. I don't mind if people think so. I tell everyone the truth that it's not the case, but I guess I'll take it as a compliment that I come across as somebody with what they call FU money, even though I have F-all money. But it's an important piece of housekeeping because there is an opportunity to help fund what I'm trying to do here. And it's essential because I cannot fund myself because I do not have the money to fund myself. I don't have the money for anything whatsoever. That's what happens when you have F-all money, because you just have to have your integrity above everything else. It's not really a choice. I would sell my soul to the devil if he were offering me a bargain, but he hasn't made the offer. So, integrity is what I've got. And if that comes across as being rich, you should know I am not. If you're wondering, hey, should I fund him? Might he actually help the world become a much, much better place? Should I get involved? It seems like he only has like 15 people actually watching him on YouTube and whatnot. It seems like what he's saying is unique and interesting. The answer is yes. You should get involved and you should fund me. And I'll share in my YouTube thing, in the description, I guess, how you can do so. Hint, you'll need to transfer money from you to me. But the exact means is how to do so. And again, is there a benefit to pointing out how little money I have? Is there? Is there? No, there isn't. You know why? Because people have this grand misconception that money is important. Money is essential to get shit done. No question about that. But people have a conception that like it defines, and it wouldn't make any sense to people if you knew quite how little money I actually have. If you knew that I have raised more money for charity than I have ever owned in my existence. Happens to be true. The point is that if you're questioning whether to fund me or not, yeah, it's necessary. Anyway, that housekeeping out of the way, it just seemed necessary, at least largely in part because this is a Jewish word, kitrig. It means evidence against. It's a bit of a kitrig on the world and on Klal Yisrael in particular, Klal Yisrael being the Jewish people, which is probably you. You're probably Jewish. Those are the odds if you're watching this. Not for sure. There are plenty of people who aren't Jewish who are watching this, but yeah, it's quite a kitrig. It's quite a bit of evidence against Klal Yisrael that for those of you who know me, even for those of you who don't, the fact that I don't have money for my purposes here, or even for myself, when you probably have an inkling of the degree to which I have done for Klal Yisrael and for the world, it's a bit of a problem for that's it. So I had a responsibility to share it. I don't like doing it, and now it's done. Great. On to the better part. Last week on Friday, I shared on WhatsApp, and for those of you who are not currently on my WhatsApp, leave a message, whether it's here on YouTube, here on Substack, or any other way. And so long as you're not crazy or evil, I'll be happy to add you to WhatsApp. Heck, I'll add you anyway, and then I'll just delete you if you are crazy or evil. But try not to be, because none of us really have to be crazy or evil. But I shared on WhatsApp that I was in Tortosa, Spain. And in Tortosa, Spain, there was a great vikuach, a great debate between all the rabbis of that area, and beyond, really largely Spain, who were forced to come out to Tortosa and debate whether, in fact, they deep down know that Christianity is true and are just being obstinate, which is such a ridiculous thing. Who the hell would do such a thing? But in any case, and it was an absolutely terrible time. Jews have often had a terrible time in this world, but because of the oddity of who we are as a people, and of course I am one of them, hence the we part, yeah, not everybody on the outside sees it. I've written about it. There's a thing on my Substack you can read called something like, is Hollywood run by Jews? You should read that. there is a lot of things that I could explain about the Jewish people and about the world in general and history in general. This is my field. This is what I do. I've been to Göbekli Tepe, the very first habitation on Earth, settled habitation on the planet. This is what I do, my friends. I seek out all the interesting things in people. In any case, so not everybody knows it, but yeah, the Jewish, waxing and waning, the waves of ups and downs in Jewish history cause people to not always see things clearly on the outside or on the inside. But on the inside, it's often pretty crappy in terms of how the Jews have been dealt with by the people around them. All right, so in this case, I shared, and for those of you who are not on it, I guess I'll share right now what I posted on my WhatsApp last week, some piece of a Torah scroll that was probably used by Saint Vincent Ferrer. Vincent Ferrer was a piece of shit. There's somebody on my WhatsApp group, of my 50 people or so that are following me on WhatsApp. One of you is a priest. I think you might even be a bishop, actually, by this point. Well done, if that's the case. From not too far from Tortosa, a very, very short drive. And I hope that you don't take it as an insult that I'm calling St. Vincent Ferrer a piece of shit. But if you know what he did to my people, the Jews, he was a piece of shit. Okay, you and I have had conversations. Obviously, you have certain conceptions about Jews and whatever else, but we could talk about that privately. So Vincent Ferrer, he stole so many Torah scrolls, so many, original parchment pieces, the 5 books of Moses is what the Torah is. And he would go around from synagogue to synagogue with a scroll in one hand and a cross in the other, and force people on Shabbat, on the Sabbath day, force them to listen to his lengthy pieces of shit sermons about how the Jews really know that Jesus is God. And then eventually there was pogroms that he had a large part in causing. In 1391, large riots all around Spain that killed many, many thousands of Jews and forcibly converted many others who were not allowed to be unconverted once the force was over. That's what created the Inquisition. These people who were forced at the point of a sword to convert, later on, if they were wanted to be Jews again when the point of the sword was removed, that's what the Inquisition was for. Hey, you guys converted. How dare you go? Unbelievable stuff. Anyway, so I found a piece of that Torah scroll, and I'll share, or I guess I already did. I probably didn't. So I'll share it now, the piece of that Torah scroll and what I wrote on WhatsApp. And pause for that. A nearly 1,000-year-old Torah scroll from the Torah portion that was read in synagogues around the world last week. You are one of the only people alive to see this. I found it in Tortosa, Spain. It is probably around 800 years old. I'm probably the only Jew to have touched it in our lifetime, and perhaps for many lifetimes. It was in the archives of the cathedral, buried away in this place. Read the words there. You'll see this is interesting too. At the end of the 1300s, St. Vincent Ferrer would go from synagogue to synagogue around Europe, but primarily in Spain, and force all of the Jews in the city or town to listen to him speak for the entire Sabbath day, as he held a Torah scroll in one arm and a cross in the other. He stole so many Torahs that we don't know where this one came from. It was likely used in the years-long debates that Jews were required to send rabbis to, where the rabbis did not have the freedom of response that Ramban had over a century earlier, but were instead essentially defendants. Out of these debates came Rav Yosef Albo's famous Sefer HaIkorim, Book of Principal Beliefs. I feel like I was Goel, this piece of Torah, on behalf of the Jewish community from that area, from whom it was stolen some 600 years earlier. Unfortunately, the fellow there could see my emotion and recognition, and demanded to know whether I could read it. I said yes, and he lunged to grab it away from me and kick me out. I quickly and secretly took these pictures. You can see that at one point the word Vaterkavna was rewritten. Also, I don't know exactly what to make of the nakudot, of the dots. V'na'aroseha, menikta. It's possible that the patach covers a few different nekudot, or it could be something else. Over here is another picture that I managed to take. Really, really unbelievable to look at this from my perspective. I hope from yours as well. Just really, really beautiful. Klei chesef u'klei zahav u'v'gadim vayitein l'Rivka. Pause done. So now what I'll share with you is possibly the oldest standing synagogue in Europe. Certainly the oldest standing synagogue in Western Europe is in Toledo, Spain. This is a synagogue wherein prayed the Rosh, Rabbeinu Usher ben Yechiel, the Tur, the Beis Yosef passed it. He wasn't able to pray in it because by that point the aforementioned Vincent Ferrer had already turned it into a church when it was stolen from the Jews. This is a synagogue from the early 1100s at least. And it has not been a synagogue from the early 1400s. It's now a museum of sorts. And I was there on a Friday, and after it had officially closed, I still nonetheless found a way to get in and was able to celebrate bringing in the Shabbat from the place where Kabbalat Shabbat was first a thing. Kabbalat Shabbat means welcoming the Sabbath. And there's a whole bunch of very pleasant prayers, psalms, singing that is done in synagogues around the world as people welcome the Sabbath. And this was essentially instituted in its current form by Jews literally from Toledo, Spain, other parts of Spain as well. And at this point they were in Israel and Tzfat, but they actually started it in Spain. And I sang part of the song by Rabbi Shlomo Alkabatz there in this synagogue. And I'll share it with you here. This was a few years ago. At one point, you'll see on the left-hand side, there's somebody standing in an entranceway. It turns out that is the nun, the sister, who runs that, because it's owned by the church, since St. Vincent Ferrer stole it around 1405. She actually runs the quote-unquote museum, which, of course, is a synagogue, as far as I'm concerned. And I didn't, I figured there's a chance. It wouldn't be the first time someone had called the police on me for being somewhere I'm not supposed to be. But nonetheless, I wasn't going to stop welcoming in the Sabbath because somebody was standing there. In any case, I went over afterwards to talk to her, just to be friendly, obviously. I don't, anyways. So we spoke for a while and welcomed the Sabbath together. And it turns out that her father was Jewish, her mother was not. And she became a nun. Her brother converted to Judaism because, according to Orthodox understandings, he has to convert if his father was Jewish, but his mother wasn't. He converted to Judaism, and now he lives in Eli, in the Shtachim, in Israel. He is a completely religious fellow, religious Jewish fellow, I believe with 8 children, and he lives in Eli. In any case, this is for y'all. Enjoy. Lo oi say voishi veloisi call me matishtoy chachi umatehmi boch yechasu ani ami v'nivne sa'ir al tila lechadaidi alikras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabla Halecha doidi likras kahala Pnei Shabbos nekabela V'hayulim shisa shai sayich V'rachako kol mevalayich Yahasis alayich elay hayich Kimsois chasan al kala Lecha doidi likras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela Lecha doidi likras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela Oh, 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 oh,
Yominu small to freitzi, v'yesadoi noi taritzi, al yadish ben parzi, v'nesmecha v'nagila, hay lecha daidi, lehikras kalo, Penei Shabbos nekabela. Oy boy v'shalom ateres bala. Oy gambirina gambesimcha uvtzahala. Toy chemuneyam segula. Oy boy chala Shabbos makasa lecha daidi lekras kala penei Shabbos nekabela. Oy lecha daidi lekras kala penei Shabbos nekabela.